Alrighty, hello everybody and welcome back, Okay, so in this video here, what I wanted to do was, we're going to, I know the last video I uploaded, we were working on sonar. And what we're eventually going to do is we're going to take a long range sonar, and we're going to superimpose it over this sonar, because this sonar is going to tell us where the targets are, and blah, blah, blah. In between all of that, I thought, you know what? What I want to do really quickly is I want to make this screen into a touch screen because it's the gunnery for all this fancy stuff. So what I want to do is I just want to add 4 buttons to that screen, and I thought, you know what? Maybe people aren't sure how to make a touch screen, so this video is going to be how to make a touch screen. Alright, there you go, done. Intro done. Okay, so we have a blank Lua script, and what we need to make a monitor into a touch screen is this huge chunk of code right there. Holy cow. So what does it do? So the input X and input Y is where the mouse is on the screen, and then is pressed is basically on and on off, right? So is pressed. So this could be like button A, okay? So for example, we're gonna have 4 buttons. All right, so A, and then we can copy this, right? And then this would be channel 2, channel 3, and channel 4. All right, so we're just gonna go through that first. So we're gonna have 4 buttons: one at the top, one at the right, one at the bottom, and one on the left. All right, this is going to control the gun up, down, right, and left. When we're looking at the monitor, it's going to make it easier for the player. So now it says check if the player is pressing in the rectangle. So is pressing in the rectangle is also another function. So you could name this pressed. You could say button A active. And then we need to take this here and we need to put it in here. Now what that does is it sets the output as true. We've pressed it. We've pressed button A. Now it's true. So when it draws on the screen, it's going to say, the button is active. Okay, draw a rectangle. The button isn't active. Draw a rectangle that isn't filled. All right, so that's basically that. So where it says is pressed and is point in rectangle, so is point in rectangle is the function, and this is the rectangle. All right, so input X, input Y, and then wherever the rectangle is, width and height is 20 pixels. So it's a 20 by 20 rectangle, 20 by 20, and then it's at in 10 and down 10. All right, so there's 2 things at work here. We need to define where the button is, and then we need to make sure the code knows where the button is, right? So we need to make a box on the screen which is a graphic, and then we need to add the code which says when the mouse is in this graphic, do something, right? So that is basically that. And then this function here says, okay, if there is a rectangle at wherever, yeah, is point in rectangle. So that's this function here. This function here. This is part of this, okay? So is point in rectangle. So we need the X and the Y of it. So let's say it's going to be in 5 pixels, and it's going to be down in 5 pixels, down 5 pixels. This is going to be the rectangle. I'll explain in a minute. And now what we need to do is define where the rectangle is. And the rectangle XY. All right, you know what? Here. This is all a bit confusing. Let me do something here. me do something really quick. All right. This is a way better example of a touchscreen. All right, so essentially we have X and Y, which are number values, and then we have is pressed, which is a true or false. So these are our buttons: button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, button 5. When it's pressed, meaning are we clicking the mouse here, so it's going to get us those two numbers. This here is where the rectangle is. So it's in 1 pixel, it's down 2 pixels. It's as wide as the screen, which I think is what W is. It probably is going to give me an error because I don't define W anywhere. Yeah, that's exactly it. So width, so anyways. And then it's 6 pixels tall. All right, so what I was doing is this confusing function here is point in rectangle. This is where the rectangle starts. The upper left corner of the rectangle. This is where it starts. And then the X and the Y. Is that right? No, I changed it actually. This X and Y is this here. And then the rectangle X and Y is where the actual rectangle is on the screen. Do you see that? So it needs these two inputs, and then it needs the rectangle as well. And then it sets, okay, you're pressing it, output true. So let's do this for example. Holy cow. Yeah, let's do this. Let's copy this code. How much time have I spent talking about nothing? Hey, 7 minutes. Ah, that's a new record. All right, so we'll update that. And I'm gonna load my ship. I just don't want it to be so confusing, right? So I knew I had a touchscreen somewhere that was already organized, and that's what the code that we're gonna be using. I guess it didn't save. All right, so we'll put a little lockdown. It's gonna go into here, and then that's gonna go into there. And then, all right. So what is this here? This is just a box. I don't know why I have this here. This is just a rectangle and it says systems on it. It's just a box like that. So we'll keep one of them. And you'll see, and then we'll just keep one of these buttons. All right, this is going to make it real simple. We'll go over it. And this, okay. I will explain these Boolean channels. Actually, that doesn't even matter. And this doesn't matter. Okay, so let's forget everything I just said and let's go over it again. So we want to create a touch screen. What do? Every logical tick, we need to get the X and Y of where we are on the screen, which is a number, right? This number X, this number Y. And then we need to make sure that we're also inside the rectangle. So let's just see how it works. Jeepers. So there should be a rectangle on the screen. It should say sys, maybe, unless W isn't defined. I don't know. We'll figure it out here. Okay. 6. Yes, there it is. Okay. Now, if I click the mouse, you have to press E. All right. That's how that works. So if I press E here, it's going to go no, no, no. So what the code is checking for, are we inside this defined box and are we activated? Okay. So what's a good tester for that? Without having to add anything to the ship, let's do this. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to get the composite coming in from the monitor, okay? And this is going to allow us to directly get the numbers from the monitor. Boom, we'll bring that into the code. We're going to update that. What we then need to do is we then need to take the composite from the monitor we're using as a touch screen, and we need to bring that into the Lua block where the code is, okay? So we'll do that first. Then the code is going to say, okay, this is the player X, this is the player Y, and is he pressing it? Yes. So if I'm pressing it, it should draw a rectangle that's full. So it's going to fill it up. And if it isn't, if I'm not pressing it, it'll be a hollow box. So let's see if that works now. Oh, gave me an error. Aha, you see. All right, so it gave me an error. I love it. Blue screen. Where's the blue screen? There's a W somewhere. Where's rect W? I don't think we need to change this at all. Oh, here, the W. That could be 40. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Okay, and what we're also doing is we're setting the value true to channel 2. So we can then output from the Lua script on channel 2 that true value, and we can turn on the light, or we can turn on something, or we can activate something else, right? So now if I press, oh, an error. Rect W, what line? Line 19? Line 19. Right here. This here. I'm using W as a variable, which is undefined. So that could be. Yeah, there we go. And then see? Aha, how cool is that? All right. So now what I want to do is, when that is active, then we can, so for example, when I'm pressing it, so if this is true, right? So what it says is this value, it's true if I'm pressing the button and I'm inside the rectangle. That's basically that. And how does it figure out where the rectangle is? It takes my X and Y, where the mouse is on the screen, and it also takes the defined position of the rectangle. And it says, okay, if all these variables are true, then here's what we're going to do. We're going to output true on channel 2. So what we can then do is go into the composite. We can get a read on off, and we can do this, and we can say, okay, that's a channel 2. And we want now, in the case of this microcontroller, we only have one thing left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this composite, and I'm going to make this Lua out, and we're going to take this into another script. So we'll get rid of that. We're just going to take it into another script where we'll read the values and then output them. So what values do we want? Well, we need 4 triangles. Now this one here, we want it to be in the center. So if it's 40 by 6, I think it's actually a bit smaller than that. It's 30. This is the rectangle. So if we want that to be 15, would be 38, would be 33. All right. And now it should be in the center of the screen. So let's check to see if it's in the center of the screen. What we should do perhaps this, maybe? Let's see how that looks. Right, if we put it all in this function, then it's better for us that way. It's better for us that way. All right, update that, save that, and then we'll see. Hopefully it's in the center of the screen. Oh, no, it's down. Alright. Okay, so anyway, so what we're looking at so it checks to see where we pressed on the screen and did we press on the screen. So are you holding the E button? Yes. What is the X and Y value of where your mouse is? Is it within the... So if this is true, and if this is true, then this is true. This, are you holding E? And are you holding E and clicking the mouse within the defined space? Okay, then what it does is we just do this. Output, blah, 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 blah. Right? Set output, channel 1, true. Now, you also need this function here, but we don't need to change any of it. This part here. You need this part here. Just this. So after that, okay, so think of it like this. This is one button. All right? So if you want to create another button, we can copy this. Now this here should be 33 actually, and this should be 2. And then this could be 33, and that could be 2. I was just thinking that. I got these backwards. Okay, do we want it to say systems? I guess we don't actually need this here anymore. We'll just do that. We'll just leave it as a blue button. And that way it's just generic. I like that. Okay. A blue box. Let's make it a blue box, and then when we click on it, it's going to go... Okay, and then we'll put that on channel 1. Alright. These are inputs, these are outputs. Inputs, outputs. Alright? So, if we want to add a second button, we just need to do that. And then we copy this, and we say output set bool, and we want channel 2, T2. Basically, that'd be a true. We could say this. Instead of that, we could say this. But what we want to do is we want it to fire true when that's pressed. All right. So that is where the Lua is going to run into, and then of course the on draw. We want to draw the button on the screen. We need so we can see where the rectangle is, so we know where to press or click the button and press. I hope all that makes sense. Just copy this code And you should have a fancy little button that you can press for now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to connect it to a light, and then when you press it, you'll be able to turn a light on and off. Pretty sweet. So now, it only sends a true value when you're pressing it. So it acts as a push button instead of a toggle button. So if you want it to be a toggle button, you're going to have to add in a push to toggle. Oh yeah, see, there we go. That's perfect. Just like that. So what that's going to do is that's going to allow the gun to go up, right? All I'm trying to do is position the gun. So now, do I have room in this script here for... Yeah, okay. So what we'll do is we're going to run the composite into here. And this is going to be touchscreen. Touchscreen in. All right, let's back this up here. Okay, touchscreen comes in. We are going to have 4 buttons. So we need to read 4 true or false. 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now, as I was saying, these right now are push buttons. So can I output 1, 2, 3, 4? I think I can. We need to test all 4 buttons. Alright, so we can update that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a light. And this is going to be just our test light, and then after that I'll turn it into something else. And we will stick this one down there, and he just needs our test light. Alright, now from here, alright, so now when we press that button, that red light should turn on. Birds getting thrown around. Maybe I didn't connect the... Now you can do this remotely too with radio controls. You can have a touch screen, set of buttons. Oh yeah, there we go. Now, maybe what we'll do is instead of 6, we'll make it 12. Alright, so we can add the buttons here, but remember, we still need to, so we can add the buttons here and not draw them on the screen, and then when we're pressing here, I think they can still act as buttons, but we want to draw them on the screen so we know where they are. So that's going to be 2 and 33. This could be 48. It's 40. No, 48, be 54 actually. Because it starts here and it's up this way. So then this one here is 30 long. So that would be 65. 64 and 54. And then this one here would be 33 and let's say 94 perhaps. All right, so let's take this. So once we figured out where we want them to be, we can just copy and paste those numbers. And then we'll press play and see where they actually are on the screen, and if we have to modify them at all. Actually, we'll sure. All right, so in order for the code to read where you're pressing, the bottom needs to go up. And instead of 54, this should be like 50. So, let's check that out. Let's check that out. Okay, so we know we have the 4 boxes. We know what, obviously, because it's T1, they're all tied to one function. So when we press the one top box, it'll make all of them go red, but at least they're all changing. So this one needs to come up at least another 4 pixels, the bottom one. And the sides can come up just a little bit more. So let's say 48. And let's say 88. And then I'll change it up here after. Yeah, that looks good. Just the bottom one, even more. Even more! So much clicking. I knew it. I knew it was gonna be like at least. It's like I should just go two more pixels at least. All right, we'll make it 80. Now it's gonna be. Yeah, I'm gonna have to adjust it one more time. You watch. One more time. 80 is gonna be too far into the monitor now, and the gap is gonna be inconsistent with the gap on the top of the screen, which is only 2 pixels, and this is probably gonna be 4 pixels. Oh, why did I press E? What? Alright, weird. Weird. Alright, that's not too bad. These two need to... It's just one of those things, right? It's just one of those things. Final answer. Final answer. Final answer. Okay, so now that we have that, we know what we want. Now what we need to do is we need to take these and make them into their own function. So, if this, then, I wonder if we could say else if. Let's see. Probably not. Probably not. You know what? This is... Here, we're just going to do this. We're going to make this real simple. Okay, there's a function. If we just make these the individual functions, it's the easiest thing we can do. T2, T3, T4. And then we just need to copy this and paste that. T3, T4. Just like that. Now we have 4 channels. Oh, and then the color here. We should do this copy. Alright, just like that. Now, what I want this to do, now that we have all that sorted out, what I want this to do is I need to switch. Either I need to make a switch or... Ooh, not a switch. Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't matter, actually. So now that we have our touchscreen, we can use it to make some functions. Or make some functions. We can use it. I don't know what I'm saying here. It's been a long day. Alright. So let's get rid of this light that we created. And let's connect our 4 buttons to wherever we want to connect them to. In this case, it's going to be moving the gun up, down, left, and right. Now, I don't know if I need... Right. hard part about this has to be so I'm using robotic pivots. If I was using a velocity pivot, I could just give it a value of 1 and it would turn. And when I turn the value to 0, it'll stop. But the velocity pivot won't rest back to 0. It'll stay at its current rotation. The robotic pivot will move to a rotation, and then if you tell it to rest at 0, it will move back to 0 and rest. Okay? So you need to have a position to save, to tell it to save at. So that's why the easiest thing to do, I guess, with this sort of stuff, and I hadn't thought about that until after I made the touchscreen, was instead of using these switches, is just to have an actual throttle for the thing. Yeah. An actual throttle. Now, why is that? Again, that's simply because the type of pivots that I'm using. And now I have to use the robotic pivots because in order to interpret the X and Y that I have set up there for the mouse, we can't use the velocity pivot, I have to use the robotic pivots. So I guess I hadn't thought about that. It was just kind of a big mess. Now what I do need a switch. So what we can do, actually, we still can actually use this. So we could use the top button. We'll use the other buttons as well eventually, but we will use the top button that we created. All right, so we're going to use A, and what that's going to do is that's going to switch both of these. Now, what I need to do, because it's a push button, we need to turn it into a toggle button. So we need to do that. We need to push to toggle. Push to toggle. Push to toggle. There we go. Now it's always going to be on. Easy peasy. Alright, so then we have our toggle switch. Now the off value is going to be this one here. And the on value, that's going to be our pitch. That could be this one here. Alright, and then this would probably be like 0.5. We'll test that out. And of course, this one here is going to be the pivot. And then I need to do an unlock. I need to do an unlock. This is actually going to be better because this is going to be a lot better. And then we'll make this -1. It's going to be a lot better. Why is it going to be a lot better? Because I'll be able to... So, I have rockets, I have missiles on there. And if I can move this into a fixed position, I can get the missiles to lock better onto helicopters and onto the planes. And I won't have to worry so much. Alright, so we press it, it turns on. And then what I want to do is we need an OR down here for the lock. Everything is locked. It's really important to lock your stuff. Especially when you're moving around at sea. All right, so here we're going to say that, or that. All right, and then I'll recap. I think 5 is fire. Then we'll just recap what we've done. There's still a little bit of connecting for me to do. And that. All right. Save it again. So now I can control the main gun with my mouse, which is a little difficult at times. Or I can just control it. $57. Right, so to create a touch screen, we need to take composite from the monitor into a microcontroller. Then we need to draw the buttons on the screen. And then we need to add the code. I think that's the sea monster right there. Oh yeah, so that unlocked. And then, oh, that's got no power. All right. So now I just have to adjust the buttons on the screen, change them around a little bit, and just go from there. And things will hopefully work out. Somehow it'll all work out. Oh, what it should do is switch on the gunnery camera too. Yeah, you know what? Should. The switch is internal here, right? Input. Oh, cool. Where does it come from? 4. That's the power of the OR button. Is you can have 5 or 6 or 7 buttons all over the ship that do the same thing. I love it. Oh, there's a hole there. I'll have to patch. Some rails missing. Uh-oh. Alright. Alright, so we push the button. There we go. Look at that. We're in the gunnery. Now, why is that? Does it like... Probably has no power. Huh. Something's going on. I wonder if the numbers I have don't need to be inverted. Maybe they don't need to be inverted. So how do we do that? I guess, let's see here. Oh, whoops. That's the pitch. Should be that one there. Let's see here. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That one remained connected, so this one obviously has to go to there. So that means this one there, it's got to go to there. And then that can go to there. Alright, so then this one here, and then this one here, can go there. Alright, let's see if that works. I just had to so when it comes in from the mouse, it's backwards. And then I have to reverse, I have to invert the numbers. But when it comes from the throttles, I guess I could have just gone -1, 1, but whatever. I think I don't invert it. Maybe? I don't know. Yeah, there we go. Pivot's not working though. Huh. Oh, I see. Whoops, I have that backwards. So this needs to be the on value. And this needs to be the off valve. There we go. There's a camera on the gun and everything else, and I mean it's okay with the mouse, but it's really sensitive. So I thought, okay, let's give it another mode, so that way if it's at night or whatever, and I'm traveling. There we go. There we go. Yeah. I press the up and down button. Oh, see? Something's coming in. Oh, that's perfect. And then same with the missiles. Deadly. Deadly. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. Touchscreen. How to make a touchscreen. Let's recap if we can. Okay. So how to make a touchscreen. First thing, you need a Lua script, obviously. Then you go into the help. And you need this, all of this. Copy that. Paste it in there. Then you're going to modify it. What do you need to modify? Well, you don't need to modify the input. This is where your mouse is on the screen, and this is, are you pressing E? E is the button that we press to activate the button on the screen. Just, okay, that's the hotkey for it. This line of code here is pressing rectangle. What I did was I changed this to button 1, right? And then down here we say if button 1, then otherwise whatever. That's all. If this is button 1, if it is pressed, meaning are you pressing E? And then where is it? Are you within this XY and within the defined rectangle, square, triangle that we made on the screen? All right? If those parameters are true, we can then tell it to send out as true. Simple as that, right? And you saw the rest. We send the output to a button, we connect it to a button, push toggle, bing bang shabam. So just copy the code, play with it. Hopefully by now you sort of understand this is the input from the TV, this is the output. Now, what do you need from the television? You need the composite. You need this composite link. This is how the game determines whether you're interacting with the TV or not. Alright, so as long as you have that, make the fancy blue buttons like I did there with what is that? He's there somewhere. And yeah. Fancy blotchy buttons. Look at it. I'll have to work on that. Something's not right there. Alright, you get the idea. You get the idea. Radar works, sonar works. You know, we got all this stuff now to play with on our boat, and it all does stuff. It all detects stuff. I love it. Absolutely love it. So what we're going to do in the next video, we're going to superimpose a long range thingy over top of this. And we're just going to add a line like this that spins. We're going to add a line that just spins around nothing. And it's just going to represent, quote unquote, the long range sonar. And then the long range sonar, what it's going to do is it's going to add 16 individual targets. That will allow us to move to pinpoint, and then I'm going to change this so it's not so, you know, so it's a longer line. But anyways, right? Because it'll say target 1, target 2, target 3, and then we can turn the sonar and determine how close these targets are. Oh, look, that fish there. There's a fish there. There he is, little fishy. Little fishy. Little fishy! Oh, where are you, little fishy? Yeah! Sorry, I'm having way too much fun. I know I shouldn't be, but this is cool. Look, this is our bridge, right? Then I'll get another monitor here for weather, right? We still got to do a weather system, which is going to be all cool. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, liking, and subscribing. I really hope you're enjoying what we're creating. I know I am. Thanks.